Everyone, I'm here with Maha Al Musa. I'm Sheila Kumar Hay of Ecstatic BIrth, and so excited for tonight's conversation with Maha. She is an incredible woman, an inspiration, and a soul sister to me. She's been doing this very sacred work for over 20 years. She's the founder of EmbodyBirth, Belly Dance for Birth. She's the writer of the award-winning book, Dance of the Womb. She's an international speaker. She's really an inspiration. And on top of all that, she's also been an extended breastfeeding advocate. Maha, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here tonight.
Thank you, Sheila. Lovely to be here all the way from Australia.
Right, and it's good morning to you. So sorry about that. Good night for us over here in New York. I love the internet. Now, the reason that I invited Maha here, first of all, beyond the fact that she's an amazing woman, is she shares a passion with me, and that passion is about the body. I had a post a few weeks ago that I wrote, like the key to transforming birth lies in your body, whether you're an expectant mom, whether you're a birth worker. It's that connection to your body, and that's the essential piece. And I know that that's been such a big part of your work. Maha, would you like to speak about that a little bit?
Sure. So I started teaching, belly dance birth in 1997. And I do want to start with honoring my Middle Eastern, Palestinian, Lebanese roots, because without those roots, I don't know that I would have found this pathway into my body in a very natural kind of a way. And when I was 21, I went back to the Middle East. I came to Australia as a 2-year-old. And at 21, I returned back to the Middle East. And I was in the circle of women. And in that circle of women, there was such richness, and the essence of my Middle Eastern roots embraced me like a warm hug of the sisterhood. And I was amazed because I'd grown up in Australia in the West, and I'd always felt like I didn't belong. There was a sense of something wasn't sitting well in my body. And when I opened that door to my roots in the Middle East, in Jordan, I got to dance with the women. It was the first time I danced in the circle of women. And what it was there was nobody instructing. There was nobody telling you how to dance or how to move or what steps or any of that. It was just dancing and riding on the waves of ecstasy of the women, ululating, playing music, clapping. And I was doing all these incredible moves, and I didn't even know where those moves came from. But it came from the connection, the warmth, the compassion, the love of the women, and of course, my family. And I realized that when we are, in that free place to really connect and to be with our sisters and to be with the women who love us through, we find those places within our body that don't need to be categorized or structured or put into compartments, which is very much what the West does. It's kind of separate the mind from the heart, from the spirit. And that's what happens in birth. And that's why I came back to teaching the belly dance birth and created my program, which then became EmbodyBirth over the years. So the way through to the body is the belly dance birth, the dance. And how to embody the birth is understanding the philosophy and psychology of what it is to be female. And then go into the deeper mammalian roots that we all have that are the blueprint of what birth is. So when we put all these components together, which I do in my program, we find a way to come into the body, because most women are exiled from their body. So we say we are going from being exiled to being ecstatic, or to finding, who am I in birth? Who am I in the world as a woman? What is the gift that birth gives me when I can navigate deeply into those places? We know the body is not just the physical, the emotional, the energetic, the spiritual, the sensual, the sexual, the psychic. I think that gets left out as well. What gets amplified when we connect to our body is our psychic awareness. And that's what pregnancy and birth gives us the gifts of. So when we do step into motherhood, we have already grown or seeded those flowers of intuition and instinct, when we are left to be free, to be raw, to be wild, to find who we are for birthing. And that is, Sheila, the saddest thing of all is that women are getting robbed of this. And that's what my work is about, to say, stop robbing women in this rite of passage experience. Let them find who they are. Let them seed the garden of self-awareness so they can birth and become mothers from those flowers that we grow in that garden.
You've made so many important points that I want to highlight. And the first, that like movement is such a powerful gateway to coming home to our body, right? Because like you pointed out, most of us are just kind of moving our head from place to place with our body. Like that's our relationship. Our body's job is just to move our head from place to place, and all of our energy is here up, right? But in birth, it's all happening in our body. It can't happen in our head. Our fears, our doubts, our insecurities, all of that's in our head. So movement is this really powerful gateway. And I stumbled upon this actually accidentally in my birth, where I was having a very pokey labor and started to move, and that dance, just as you highlighted, took me to these realms of ecstasy that I could not have even imagined. And the thing that I found really interesting, and that I've been noticing over and over and over again with my clients, is this last piece that you pointed out, the psychic connection. That it's like there's so much information once you are deeply connected to your body. And that's like, yes, to access your primal wisdom to birth, but there's also so much information about the world around you that you're going to start to notice when you really inhabit your body. It's like, how did I not see all of this before, right? The world goes from 2D to 3D. It's incredible.
Yeah, well, it's about feeling.
Yeah.
So once we get out of the head, and we need the head or the intellect to a degree, but it's not the intellectual body that births.
Right.
It is the feeling, emotional body that gives birth. And when we are denied that, we actually can't get down into that gateway that you're speaking of, or that womb wisdom, which I call the living book is within, read her. So the answers are there, but the question is, how do I trust in those answers? How do I even find them? How do I step into or dance into the dance of the womb, the dance of the feminine? That's already there in me. And this is what I talk about in my EmbodyBirth program. It's not outside of us, which is what, you know, the biomedical model will make us believe, that the expert is on the outside and I need to externalize my expertise in order to give birth, which is completely wrong. The expert is within, first and foremost. So when we start with seeding that philosophy that I am the expert of birth with my baby, and from that everything flows. So I become centered in the experience rather than being outside or disembodied or outside of myself and my expertise. So that map of birth is what we need to implicitly find within ourselves. And when we do, that's when we build the foundations of sacred birth, ecstatic birth, wise birth, intelligent birth. Because when I can tap in and feel that, as you said before, you discovered there was a psychic component. Once you could tap into that, then the awareness grows from that. But if we are in fear, then that will create constriction in the body, emotional, energetic, physical, mental, all of those bodies. And then we can't feel those other aspects that are available to us. And that's where I talk about women being robbed in birth. And we have to ask ourselves, why is this happening? What are we all so afraid of? That when a woman blossoms into her beauty in birth and speaks her truth and radiates that gift to the world, what is it that people are actually afraid of? That strength, that raw strength of the feminine is what we perfume the world with. But there's a great fear. There's a great fear out there that if women got strong and actually were self-referenced, sovereign and autonomous in birth, what would happen? There would be chaos. My goodness. all the structures that have been set up in the hierarchical system would come tumbling down. Then how could we control women? It's all upside down. If we actually trusted that women are self-referenced and have the ability and capability to tap into their wisdom and actually open that door for her, then we would see the beauty, the compassion, the raising of consciousness of love on the planet, because that's what birth's about, Sheila. At the end of the day, that's what it's about.
That's exactly what it's about, but it starts with the simplest thing, right? It starts with sensation. It starts with sensation in the body. And we've been so conditioned to ignore sensation, right? We ignore our hunger, we ignore our primal needs. And then beyond that, that's the louder volume of sensation. There are these subtle sensations. The thing that I really love and hold dear to my heart is the body wants to feel good. And so once you start to connect to sensation, and this is the basis I know of your work and of the work that I do with my clients and practitioners, this like learning the language of the body, which is sensation, and following that thread of sensation towards what feels good. It really is that simple, but we've been so completely disconnected from that, right? So I know we talked about movement a little bit as a gateway, and I love dance and movement as a way to connect to sensation within. I'm wondering what other modalities you work with your clients and with your practitioners to help them connect to the language of the body.
Well, we come back to the trilogy that I call movement, sound, and breath. That is your basic foundation. So when I'm working with women, we just come back to those three components to find that language, as you said, of the body within. So I can learn to own what arises in my body in relationship to my baby and what my baby is telling me. Let's not forget that the baby is a part of the experience if we're talking about pregnancy and birthing. So there are messages coming through the body from the baby's body to the mother's body. And that is what we are dancing into with sound, breath, and movement. So we start with, we look a lot at the jaw, the throat, area, the relationship to the jaw and the pelvis, the throat and the vagina, the lips and the cervix. So we start to make those awarenesses between those parts of the body. So there's connections starting that way. And when we go in through the breath, through the sound, through the sensation and the feeling, we start to feel, where am I held? Where am I flexible? Where am I moving? How am I navigating? Where am I stuck? Where am I free? And the thing is there's no judgment on it. And this is the big thing that needs to be reiterated, is that there is no judgment. And when there is no judgment, that's how the body opens slowly, slowly in that safe space where I'm not being judged, where I am just curious as I self-inquire through the body and go, isn't that interesting that when I do a circle movement of the belly dance, for example, I do the circle and then I bring them back now to the jaw. Let's loosen up that jaw. Let's chew. Let's work through the jaw, the breath, and let it go. And then as we circle, what we notice is a difference when the jaw is not constricted. Now I say, hold your jaw tight, tighten, 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 grip that jaw and try to circle your pelvis. You can't do it. So it's through creating that new way of seeing the body for birth. It's not about also someone telling me how to breathe or somebody telling me how to move. Yeah, because every woman's body is different. Where she's holding, where I hold and where you hold can be different in subtle ways. So we need to work through and scan through the body and bring in that movement, sound, and breath. So I use a lot of somatic processes. We do a lot of free dancing as well. The other thing about birth, which is really important to remember, is that you can't choreograph it. I don't teach steps in my EmbodyBirth and belly dance birth program. It's not a series of steps, because what that does is it puts women in their head. So they're thinking birth. Yeah. So what we do is we go into the body, that inner awareness dance with my baby. What is my body wanting to reveal to me in this moment? So it's a moment by moment revelation. Yeah. What is my body wanting me to receive in this moment? What is my body telling me? Then when we come to give birth, we're listening from this place. Yeah. It's not somebody telling me, stand up, put your leg up, you know, move this and that. It's about coming back to listening and then making choices around that listening, which is part of the awareness. So then I can find positions in labor, because in pregnancy, I found myself in my body with my baby. Yeah, I know what to do. This is a very, very difficult thing for the biomedical model to hear when a woman says, I know what I'm doing for birth.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
if I need guidance, if I need help, if I need assistance, I have a voice, I will ask. But there's this assumption that she has no voice, that she's disembodied and cut off, and she needs those people on the outside to make birth work. That's wrong. It's the other way around. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the body, birth can work. We start with that premise.
Yeah. What I was going to say is what I love about what you're saying too is it comes from within, and it's a practice, right? So it's a practice that when someone is committed and motivated enough to train, to connect to their body, to learn the language of the body, that's something that takes time. But to be able to start to do that during pregnancy for your birth, it's actually a gift that just keeps on giving, because to be self-referenced in that way, to be able to access your inner wisdom, your feminine strength, your feminine power in that way, it serves you as a mother as well. Because so often, we're in this world where the experts tell us what we should be doing, but there is actually no should, as every mother knows every child is different and every child requires something different. So there's no clear-cut way to go through it. The other thing that I wanted to say about what you just shared, and I love the movement, the sound, and the breath, because these are all gateways to flow, right? And that's really what we want in labor, is we want to, the fear will bring constriction, and what we want is that flow to allow the body to do what it needs to do. And all of those three are tools in sensual expansion too. So not only are they really effective for birth, but they feel so good. And these are tools to help you feel more and feel more pleasure and joy in your body. So it works like twice as well, because it supports your labor and delivery, but it's also fun. You get to enjoy it, and you get to access this beautiful feminine wisdom through it too.
Well, you learn that you can own your birth. You can be responsible for your birth. Something else I wanted to add on to what you were saying there is also in my EmbodyBirth program, we say every emotion, every feeling and sensation is valuable and valid. So even though we are working toward that flow, we're not set in that either. So in that flow, up comes an obstacle. Yeah, an emotional obstacle. And I experienced that in my home birth at 46 with my daughter Amina. Here I was having my third labor, and unbeknown to me, because I was in that safe space at home with the midwife and my doula and my partner and friend, what happened was, what rose up through my body was very, very deep holding and constriction around my father's abuse of me. And I tell this story a lot in my EmbodyBirth training, and I won't go into detail, but what I understood about birth was that when we are in that flow, obstacles can rise. Yeah, it doesn't mean just because I'm in that flow that nothing's going to stand in my way or get in my way. So I don't look at it quite like that. I say, in the flow, things will rise up from the body because I'm in that relaxed state of consciousness. Then the question is, how do I navigate through what is rising up? And that's the key. How do the people in the environment understand that this could be a potential and a possibility of what might happen in labor to a woman? How is the environment created, this safe, secure space, so if something rises up, we don't just go for the drugs. We don't just say, oh, now you'll need a cesarean if this doesn't, you don't, get to 10 centimeters in the next half an hour. That's wrong. What we have to say is, I see you, I feel you, I am here for you as you navigate through what is rising up. Yeah. And we create patience, space, and time for a mother to work through that excavation. There's the difference. There's the key. That's where the gift lies. And that happened to me with my daughter. I got to about 8 centimeters dilated, and up came this surge and well of very deep grief and trauma through my body. And in that moment, I realized birth is a place to heal our trauma, the mother line, the grandmother line, the father line, and women are also being robbed of that. And it was so crystal clear to me, it changed the way I taught. Amina's birth changed and opened a doorway for me that said, when we can create those safe spaces and understand what's happening on a body level, Yeah, that exploration and excavation. Through the flow comes another door. The door's shut. Yeah, I'm knocking on the door in labor. Am I prepared to step through? Am I willing? Do I have an intention to step through? Do the people around me understand that or not? That will make the difference between whether I'll open that door with the key of healing, of transformation, and I'll walk through that door, or I won't get there. I'll be given painkillers, I'll be given a cesarean, I'll be interfered with. And that's what my work is all about, telling and sharing and inviting birth workers to look through this lens. And when we open those doorways, that's where the transformation and the strength as a woman comes in. And that's what birth gives us, that rite of passage.
This is such an important point, and I'm so glad that you brought it forward, because, you know, a lot of times we think about birth as the birth of the baby, but actually what's happening and what you're really speaking to is the rebirth of the mom, right? There's a woman being born that will be the mother of that baby. And this emergence that you're talking about, birth is, I believe, the biggest energetic healing and physical healing that you'll experience in your life if you allow it to be just the way you described it. Because what's happening is you're getting so much energy flow through your body, just like when you get Reiki or any other types of energy healing that can feel nourishing. It can also stir the pot and bring stuff up that you've been holding in your body and suppressing in your body. And so this is one of the reasons I actually love sensual expansion as a form of birth prep, because when you are taking that sensual expansion journey, you're learning to allow more and more levels of flow through your body. You're learning to, you have that expansion through that expanded pleasure, expanded energy flow, and stuff will come up. And birth is kind of like the biggest version of that, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a peak experience.
Yes.
So any experience, or as I call it, prime mover experience, will open those doorways. And the other thing is, it is about the baby too, because if we can go down into that excavation, and that, as I say, birth is not a medical emergency, it is a spiritual emergence. What will happen for the baby, and this is what I felt with Amina's birth, was that I was creating clear channels for her to be born through on an energetic level. So what that meant was she, and I've got goosebumps now when I talk about it, is that she did not have to carry that trauma or the level of that trauma, guilt, grief, shame that I was carrying. And that's how we create that healing for our children. Ooh. Coming through that channel. It was so clear. It was like a crystal drop on me. And because I was 46, I'm birthing at a later age in life. I've already had 2 children. I work in birth. So I'm already focused on saying, give me a 360-degree vision of this experience. I want to experience it all. The flow, the obstacles, the hardships, the ecstasy, the joy, give it all to me. So I was willing to go to that place of complete surrender. And that's what Spirit gave me. And I am always grateful, because I teach now from that place. Last year I was in China. I spoke to 2,000 midwives at their annual China conference. And I stood on that stage and I went through that birth experience that I've explained with Amina. You could hear a pin drop in that auditorium of 2,000 midwives. And I stood there and I cried and I cried and I cried as I retold the story of Amina and felt it through my body. And I said, this is birth. This is what we give to women. This is the gold. All this other stuff is important, but there's a lot of surplus stuff that's superficial.
Yeah.
That's not really about the women's story of birth, the female language of birth, the feminine language. And I want to spread that message through being someone who has walked that talk, come through my body. Yeah.
Such a powerful story, Maha, and I felt those chills right alongside you. And I'm thinking of those 2,000 midwives, and you and I, we both we both work with practitioners. We both train practitioners to bring our gifts to their clients. And one of the things that I believe, and I know you do too, is it's really important for practitioners as well to clear their stuff so that they can hold that sacred container in the birthing room. So I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about that and connect that to this amazing insight that you had in your birth.
Yes, well, I, like you, Sheila, I mean, I've taught thousands of practitioners, midwives, doulas, childbirth educators. What I often notice is the intellect is very, you know, everything's worked out up here, but when we get them to drop into their bodies, I mean, with all due respect, so many midwives that I've trained and taught can't even do a simple hip circle. Very awkward, very constrained, very embarrassed, very giggling and laughing. So we use humor to stop ourselves from going in. And working with the body for a midwife or a doula is absolutely essential to understand the depths of birth. If you are saying in my program, if you can't be with woman, your own woman, how can you be with a woman, a client? It just doesn't work. You have to understand, how do you navigate your feminine in the world? How do you move through things in life yourself? Where is your body constricted and constrained? Absolutely essential. And people often, with my training, it's very interesting. When I called it belly dance birth, a lot of people were really like, oh, I don't know if I can do this training. I've got to dance and I've got to move. And I'd say, do you have a heartbeat? Yes. Then you can dance. The mothers have a heartbeat. They have 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 heartbeats if they're lucky, if they're holding triplets. So you can dance really well. It's not really about dancing. It's about accessing and activating that which the body wants us to receive. And you are absolutely right. Once we can train birth professionals to really be in their body and to have patience, take that time to just breathe before you go barging into the birthing room. Connect into your body. Do a couple of hip circles. Bring yourself down. Bring that energy down to meet where the woman is at. And I'm talking at a conference in New Zealand in September. This is what I'm going to be talking about. Osmosis in the birthing room. What is that? How does that look and feel? So a really, really important subject of itself.
This is the basis of, I do a year-long training for birth practitioners, and it's a year-long because there's so much body stuff, there's so much practice, there's so much learning to connect to the body, learning to connect to sensation, learning to access the flow of pleasure within, the ecstasy within, because like you said, the birthing field is porous, right? So if you can connect to that in your own body and bring it into the birthing room, that's a gift. It's a gift for the mama to be. It's also a gift for you, because I see so many birth workers are depleted because, you know, they're functioning from here and all their energy is going out, and then, they've got nothing left. But when you can source from that place, when you've done the body work to be able to sustain yourself through this deep connection that Maha's talking about, it changes everything. It changes everything.
Because I'll just quickly say is that instead of being a midwife doing, you become a midwife being.
Oh, I love that.
There's a big difference between having to do something for birth to work. And I know Sheila Kissinger spoke about this, whom I love. She endorsed my book. It's not about doing something to make birth work. It's about being. And birth will work itself out. And why have a saying, be in birth, being in birth. How different does that look like to doing in birth? So it's a very fine skill to have. When do I have to move forward and lean in and do? When do I just lean back and be? So that's where the birth professional needs to breathe, be connected to their own body, because I think often they're just acting on being just spontaneous without thinking. So it's just like a robotic care, maternal care. So emotional intelligence in the birthing room. I did a whole VBAC conference presentation on emotional intelligence in maternal care. This is what this is about. But we are working under the hierarchical system. That system that's set up doesn't easily allow for this language to come forth. And so how can we meet yes, when there is necessity, when there is emergency, we're not saying that that does never happen, but how can we balance that out with what we're speaking about, the being versus the doing? And that's what I'm trying to bring. Yeah.
Maha, you're such a wise woman, and you have so many gifts to share. I can feel it. It's like, oh, I just want to keep you here forever and ask you 1,000,001 questions, because I can feel how passionate you are and how much you want to, give your gifts to the world, and how much I want to receive them. So I was thinking, for any expectant moms that are watching this now or later, any birth practitioners that are watching this now or later, if this resonates and they really want to, start taking steps down this path, what would you recommend?
Come and do my EmbodyBirth training.
Before that.
Yeah, so, I've got my beautiful book, Dance of the Womb. I've got my video series, Dance of the Womb. And because this work is felt sense, you have to feel it to understand it. So, watching me, moving with me through my video, just coming into your body that way, slowing down, dropping in, getting very earthed. Yeah, these are the things that we need. I'm also I'll be putting together an EmbodyBirth pregnancy online course that will be launching at the end of the year for pregnant mums. I still haven't done that for birth professionals yet. I'm not sure how to do that because everything's really face-to-face in person, but I will have that online course. I also do consultations all over the world as well. And that's really great because I can do movement. I intuit what's needed, what's being asked underneath what's being asked. So I can support you as well in that way through Skype counseling. So, they're the ways. Get in touch with me. We can work out, what we could do. And yeah, it's, go to my website, have a look at what I offer there.
So I'm putting the links to these resources that Maha just mentioned, I'm putting in the post so you can access her website there. She's got some amazing videos that you could just watch right on her website, and, as well as all the resources that she just mentioned. I also want to share that I'm offering a complimentary training this weekend for birth practitioners. It's called the 5 Pillars of Ecstatic Birth. And it's really all about, like, how do you source from that place within yourself that really is full of pleasure and ecstasy, and then bring that into the birthing room. So the links for all of these are in the post above. Maha, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this time with you. Is there anything you want to say before we close?
I want to do something with you one day, Sheila.
Me too, I want to come. I want to come to Australia.
Yes. But look, the thing is just come into that place of trusting, because we're always looking for that permission or that acceptance or that approval. Come into, what is my body asking of me in every unfolding moment, and trust that. Sit with that. And if resistance comes up, if fear comes up, just be curious about why is that showing itself, and the answers are there. If I can give birth at home at 46, I say to all women, you can give birth too. Yeah, you can come into that place, because every woman carries that map of birth within. Just need to tap into it. Yep. And believe in yourself. Believe in yourself.
Love that message. So important to just keep coming back. Keep coming back to your body. What does your body want now? What does your body need now? That's the only thing anyone watching takes away from this time. Keep coming back to your body. What does your body need? Let your body lead, right?
Yes. And now, Sheila, I'll just finish with, I'm in post-menopause. I'm 3 years post-menopause. I'm 57 this year. And that's a whole other rite of passage. But what I do want to say is, because I've lived these other rites of passages in the way that I have, I am just flowing as that continuum into the post-menopause time. I've had amazing challenges in the body. Yeah, my body is changing. I can't handle things as much, the stresses and the overwhelm, my adrenals, all of that. So because I've done this rite of passage in the way that I have, with pregnancy, birth, mothering, breastfeeding, 8.5 years I breastfed my daughter, because I did that, I was already listening to my body. So that doorway has already opened for me in my menopause, which makes it a little bit easier, rather than hitting my head on a closed door. So that continuum through the rites of passages and the cycles of womanhood will put us in good stead when we follow this kind of flow that you're talking about. Really essential. I'm not taking tablets. I'm not taking creams. I really want to feel again, what is my body telling me? Yeah, what is it? And I'm going very deep, Sheila. And that's another area I want to work in, is menopause as well, because it's a very blankety blank. It's the invisible woman, and it's so powerful. More than birth.
Lead the way, lady. Lead the way. We're right here, right behind you. Lead the way.
And I get myself, you know, when I'm strong in my body, I've got a lot to say about this rite of passage. But definitely, you know, that continuum, it keeps flowing. The way I did that will be the way that I open this door into postmenopause. So it's all connected. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Maha. You're such an inspiration. Love to be with you. And thank you, everyone who's watching now or later. Thank you for being with us. Until next time. Lots of love.
Namaste.
Bye.
Bye.